should have got it yesterday.
Jay, will you mention that Heller's measure to secure funding? Will you mention that? I will mention both. Good. Okay. We won't get in the middle of who first or who said it last, but we will just state that.
Okay. Let me see something here. When I always looking at the wrong thing and give the wrong date. I'll call the order of the Truckee River Flood Management Authority meeting for October 12th. With a roll call, please.
Ron Smith.
Here.
Jason Foxman.
Here.
Bob Lucy. Absent, Ron Hartman.
Here.
Donald Abbott.
Here.
Thank you.
Paul McKenzie.
Here.
We have a quorum, sir.
Okay, if you all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, Mr. Babzine, would you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'm going to open up the public comment period. Anybody wishing to speak, would you fill out a card for me, please? First speaker is Mr. Jeff Church. Come on down, Jeff. Welcome.
Good morning, thank you.
You have 3 minutes, sir.
Wonderful. Good morning. My name is Jeff Church. I apologize. I only had 2 of those little cards to hand out, but I want to talk about WC1, the flood tax that would raise our property tax above the 3%. I'm on the opposed committee, and our website is www.taxyourselfnotme.com. I want to be fair to the other side. Their website is stopriverflooding.com. So there's 2 websites, one opposed, one for. I've asked out before previously if members of this board, especially the elected officials, are in favor of WC1 raising our property tax or not. I haven't heard back, and as I attend various forums, it's nice to say that people do or don't. So I'm going to kind of assume that you haven't made a decision on that yet. We already pay taxes. We basically pay 3 taxes for flood control already. We pay the sales tax for flood control. If anybody's been to Carson City, you'll also know that gas is about 40 cents cheaper there. We pay RTC tax for roads and bridges. That money can be used for our bridges, and therefore that money should be used for that as opposed to raising our property tax once more. And I said there were 3 taxes. There may be more, but the third one's what we call general fund. We already pay taxes to the general fund, and Sparks and others have used that in the past for flood mitigation, so we should continue to do that. One other quick comment. On your public comment card, it indicates that I can only speak on items not on the agenda. I ask your attorney and you to look at that. There's no compelling interest to make somebody sit here throughout an entire meeting. 3 minutes is 3 minutes. So basically based on case law, New York Sullivan case and others, I think, and the Attorney General opinion, I think that it's prudent to allow people to speak a public comment on any matter that affects the flood committee. Making me wait, for example, for 2 or 3 hours, and this, usually you guys go fast, but not everyone does. So if somebody wants to speak on an agenda item, they should be able to do that at any public comment and not be forced to sit here. People have family needs, ADA needs, et cetera. And again, there's no compelling reason that we can't speak on a public item that affects you without having to wait until the end. And that is already before the Attorney General. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Church. Mr. Wolz, I think he's correct on that as far as public comment. That means any item.
There are several ways you can do that. There are actually 2 methods that are outlined in the open meeting law. The first is to allow public comment at the beginning and at the end. Mm-hmm. and then there'd be no comment during the actual agenda items.
We do that.
Or you can allow comment on the actual agenda items. Or you can do a hybrid. You can do more. So our system actually allows more than the statute requires of us.
Okay.
Certainly we could change that. You might see a situation where you have people commenting at the very beginning of a meeting and then again on the agenda item. I might suggest if you want to open the opening comment period up to comment on any agenda item, that then maybe not allow comment during the actual agenda items. It'd be up to the board. Like I said, we've got kind of a hybrid, and we've discussed various options in the past and kind of continue to come back to this. I think, I believe the county operates this way as well, so we kind of picked it up by tradition, but we can certainly adjust that if you like.
Mr. Hartung.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The county operates on, during public comment, during opening public comment is on any item on or off the agenda.
Okay.
And then each agenda item allows for 3 minutes of public comment. That would be my preference.
Okay.
Allow people to speak on any item that they want to.
I'll make that change if you like.
That, that's my preference, but
Can we direct you to do that now for our next
Yeah, I don't
meeting?
believe that's an item that necessarily requires a vote. If you'd like,
And we allow public comment in the beginning, at the end, and then if somebody puts down an item that they want to speak, we'll open up the public comment again.
in the past, adjustments to the agenda have just been made between council and the chair
Okay.
without a vote. So since this doesn't require a vote necessarily, I will take that direction. And
Okay.
if someone on the board
Did you want to say
disagrees with that, we can certainly place it on the agenda for our next meeting in
Okay.
November and have a vote on that. So if someone would like that on the agenda, please contact me.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Okay, moving on to, well, I'll close the public comment period, and nobody else wants to speak at this time, and we'll bring it back to the commission. See approval of the agenda for October 12th. Anybody want to pull anything, change anything?
so moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. 1D, approval of the draft minutes of June the 8th. Is that the last time we met? Holy mackerel. Okay,
Motion to
any
approve.
changes? We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, E, announcements, clippings. Jay? Did you want to say anything about them, or?
Yeah, I've got just a couple of things to say. Number one, your representative from the city of Sparks, Donald Abbott, is now an official member of the TRFMA. Mayor Martini excused himself, and we thanked him for that. And I'm trying to think of what we might do for his great service. But I just wanted to make sure that I recognize that we do have an official member, not an alternate anymore, here with us. The second thing I wanted to mention is we have two senators taking credit for work that was done that they both supported, and I just leave it at that. The America's Water Infrastructure Act was passed. It is a water funding bill. And what it did is we inserted an amendment that officially, where the WRDA of 2014 gave 7 years to work out an arrangement with the Corps of Engineers, which would have meant that our project would deauthorize automatically in 2021. Now we have, instead of 7 years, we have 10-year period to basically develop the partnership with the Corps of Engineers and get that going. But the clock doesn't even start until the Corps is finished reviewing our plan. So the clock hasn't started with us yet. So that means that we've got a good 10 years, maybe even 11 or 12, in order to get our partnership agreement and get our federal funding taken care of. That's a very, very good and a very helpful amendment that we got there. Let's see, I also wanted to bring to light the normally in our clippings, which typically we try to pull everything from the newspaper and or other papers in the region and or national news regarding flooding. There was an op-ed piece yesterday. I just turned your attention to it yesterday, and the RGJ was on page 2. You may want to read that. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, sir. We'll move on to number 2, discussion and update on the status of the Flood Control Project Needs Committee. And then if there's any direction, I'll give that to you. But for now, I'll open up the public comment period. I do have one card. Mr. Church, come on down.
I can speak now, or I prefer to wait till the end. It's up to you, Mr. Chair.
Why'd you speak now?
Okay, thank you. Good morning. My name is Jeff Church. I'm not aware, I didn't have time to pull the actual packet on this, so I'm not sure exactly what the direction is. You know, my understanding is that the Flood Needs Committee basically expired and they were done. But so I'm very anxious to hear what you're going to talk about today. Perhaps we're going to look at North County flooding and maybe make some recommendations on that. And again, not to run afoul of the present policy on open meeting law, I didn't know if I should bring this up now or later. So I want to bring to your attention, when we look at the flood needs for the Truckee Meadows, there was a TUMWA study done in conjunction with the federal government. That came out at their agenda August 15th. I hope you've seen it, or I hope you take a look at it. And it basically said that we need more reservoirs upstream. And that's important because reservoirs not only store water for drinking, for farming, et cetera, as well as for recreation, but those reservoirs then act as a form of flood control so that when there are rains and extra water, those reservoirs can store that potential flood water and keep it from coming downstream. So I hope you look at that study. I hope you support that study. I like the idea on the surface anyway, because that shares the cost of a reservoir. It's not paid for entirely by the taxpayers of Washoe County. It's paid for by the water users through fees, paid for by the state of California, the state of Nevada, the federal government, Lyon County, Churchill County, all the downstream users. So again, please take a look at that TUMWA federal study, and you know that may be a good alternative to more taxes for the citizens or for alternatives strictly within. So we have to think outside the box, I guess, is what I'm saying, and look at that reservoir as an option to avoid flooding. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else in the audience wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission. Number 2, Jay.
I might add a little announcement, if you will. The fact that the Bureau of Reclamation is looking at increasing the dam height of Stampede, which would provide some additional flood / potable storage. It's in light of what Jeff was saying. I just wanted to mention that. The Needs Committee, we were anticipating holding a meeting in October, which we would then discuss the Phase 2 portion of our responsibility for the Needs Committee. The Needs Committee will officially sunset mid-February of next year, and at that time we need to have acted on a regional drainage report as part of our responsibilities. So in speaking with the city of Reno, whom are in the middle of trying to develop a stormwater utility, I felt it prudent to allow them to have a little bit more time to put together their plan that they're anticipating, at least to put in front of the city council. And that way we would have a good, in my opinion, holistic approach to what the city of Reno is going to do. Washoe County doesn't have that same goal at this time, and the city of Sparks is basically supporting the flood project. But the problem is in order to give Reno enough time, we're moving up to November. Now it's the holidays. So I think what I'm going to do, and I've already sent this as a memo to the Needs Committee, that we will try to hold a meeting on January 3rd. I will start pushing that. I even got a couple of respondents back from the committee saying that they can make the 3rd, and so that looks promising. What the plan would be to have presentations by the 2 cities and the county to the Needs Committee on the projects that they would like included in this drainage report. And then we have one more opportunity to meet in January if we need to. And then on February 7th, which is the first Thursday of February, we would then ask the Needs Committee to approve the report and then we could ship it off to the various, we've got to give it to the governor, the two mayors, the head of the county commission, legislative council bureau gets one, and several others. But at this point in time, that approved report would be the end of the needs committee responsibilities. So I have set that wheel in motion, and I just wanted to let you all saw my memo. If you didn't read it all, that's basically what I just said here this morning, so.
Okay, any questions or comments, Mr. Hartung?
Just comments, Mr. Chairman. With respect to Mr. Church's comments, I have attended a couple of TUMWA meetings, as
Yes,
you're
you have,
aware.
yes, you have.
That was not a TUMWA study, Mr. Church. It was done by the feds, by the DOI, the Department of Interior, and the Bureau of Reclamation, and what it talked about, and that was Mr. Arlen Nichols' report for reference. What it talked about was changing climates and the fact that we are dealing with higher snow levels, more frequent runoffs, more frequent flooding, and it talked about our water supply. So it talked about how, when, and where we're going to need to store, because historically and traditionally, the snowpack has held that water, and because of rising snow levels, we're afraid that it's not going to be held by the snowpack anywhere near as long. So that's what that is. It was a great presentation. It was not funded by TUMWA. It was requested by TUMWA. It was out there, great, and in fact, it was Councilwoman Breckus who asked for that report, and it was very enlightening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, this is an actionable item, so just looking for a motion to accept Jay's report.
Move to accept.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. 3, Technical Advisory Committee. Is this, Danielle, is this you? Oh, it's Andy. The last day on the job, Andy Hummel.
Wait a minute.
Andy is,
Where are you going?
Andy is leaving the city of Sparks. He's going to go to Carson City. And do you start next week, or you can take some time off?
Next Thursday is actually my last day.
Oh, you're going to be
Yeah,
here
go
next
try to hit
Thursday?
Gino with the golf ball and,
Oh, that's right, okay.
yeah.
Are you
Okay.
wearing short pants?
I'm actually wearing pants.
Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah. Thank you, Chairman Smith, members of the board. For the record, Andy Hummel, Utility Manager for the City of Sparks and Chairman for the Technical Advisory Committee. The committee actually met September 28th and October 11th on items 4A and 4B. We asked for more information on 4A. Mr. Aldine and staff provided that quickly. However, we had to have a separate meeting on the 11th to review it and approve. Both items were approved unanimously in support, and that is my report.
Okay, any questions or comments for Andy? Seeing none, looking for a motion to accept his report.
Motion to accept.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. We're going to miss you, Andy.
Yeah, same here. Thank you.
Thank you for all you've done. Okay, item number 4, financial items. Discussion and possible action to approve a First Amendment to the agreement for professional engineering services between the Truckee River Flood Management Authority and Atkins North America as of January 15th. Michael?
Mr. Chair, we're going to kind of team up on this one if you don't mind. I'll go through some of the legal aspects of this. Item 4A presents a proposed amendment to the agreement for professional engineering services with Atkins North America. This proposed First Amendment includes some additions to the scope of work, including design and engineering of the terracing project that's going to be constructed with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers as a common features project. As you know, this is significant because it moves us forward towards actually getting in the funding line with the Corps of Engineers. That terracing will be on our Bristlecone property and a small section of the old UNR property there on the south side of the river. It's all property that we currently own. The scope of services provides for a 100% design for those plans. The maximum total contract amount this proposed amendment is $1,019,981. That will result in a new maximum total contract amount for the agreement of $4,236,882. And with that, I'll turn the time over to Eric to describe the changes to the scope.
Great, thank you, Mike. My name is Eric Sheets, for the record, and I'm engineer for the flood project. I like coming to you with good news, and I believe this is good news. This is basically allowing us to start official design for the project that is credited by the Corps. So this would actually be, the Corps actually asked us, because they don't have the resources to work on this, to coordinate with our consultants and do an in-kind service project. So we, again, will get credit for this, assuming we sign the project partnership agreement eventually. So I do want to clarify a couple things. This question actually came up in the TAC meeting. Of that amount, the $1 million, there's 277 that's an optional amount. That includes 3 items that the Corps says they basically have the resources to do right now. They did not have to do, or did not have the resources to do the rest of it. So that's why we are looking to contract with Atkins on this. But those 3 other items are basically doing the MKCs, which is cost estimating, doing the hydraulic study, doing modeling associated with it. And then we're also not going to work with the McCarran Bridge tie-in right now, so it doesn't include NDOT coordination. So that's actually slightly outside of the Corps, but it would still require Corps coordination. At any rate, I don't expect us to use that full amount. That is an optional trigger, basically, that would be approved by us and the Corps, because again, we are looking for in-kind service credit for them. But at any rate, we wanted to have it there just in case, because we want to keep this design moving forward. We want to get into that president's budget. So this allows us to do that.
Eric, if the ballot measure doesn't pass, does this still go forward, or what's the deal? What's our obligation?
Very good question. So I'm actually going to end up leaving that to Jay somewhat. My personal opinion is the funding that we have available right now, we could, if you guys choose to do so, we could progress with this. It still does have benefit for the project. And I would suggest that the Corps would still potentially be interested in doing this phase. And it kind of kicks that door open, if you will. Mm-hmm. And it makes it even more likely that if it doesn't, then we could have that still as an option.
Okay.
Questions? That is correct.
Okay. Good. Mr. Hartung.
Yeah, and this is not a comment about one contractor or another. I thought HDR was doing most of our design work.
So previously, they did have quite a few contracts, but we've gone out continually over the last few projects for open bid, and Atkins was the lead consultant for the Vista Narrows. This was the quickest way we could move forward on meeting the Corps timeline and to be able to get into an ultimate president's budget. So anyway, Atkins is the lead. HDR is actually a sub for Atkins, but there's also a bunch of other subs. There's Dyer Engineering, there's CME, there's Kleinfelder, numerous. The team is actually quite large. So wherever possible, Jay can attest to this, I'm very interested in spreading the work.
So we didn't send this out to bid, Mr. Director? Just because of meeting timeline?
Yes, we did. This contract was a bid. We sent out proposals. We asked for responses. We got responses back. HDR was not part of a general response. They were subbed on several of the responses. We picked Atkins. They are a great firm. I have a lot of confidence in their project manager. And as Eric said, the fact that we have an open contract with this company makes it very convenient for us to add this extra work to it, because number one, it's in the same general area, so surveying, data acquisition, all that will still apply. And the fact is, we're going to have to be creative at times with the Corps of Engineers in order to be able to do things for them and make them happy. So I have no problem with this. When we mentioned this to the Corps, that we were willing to use, we could probably use this contract as a vehicle to do that extra engineering work. They were overjoyed because, one, they like Atkins. I think that Atkins does have an IDIQ, which is a on-call contract with the Corps of Engineers separately. But all those contracts take a long time. So they're happy with the company. They're happy with the product that Eric has provided to them. And they're also giving us full in-kind credit for all the money we spend. And this is in connection with the money that this board authorized for the contract back in February, I think. And so it's a benefit, it's a win-win-win situation, because if we get money from the Corps in constructing this project, which I think we will, then all of the effort to extend the process will really have been for naught, because it will guarantee that we're in the budget. That one thing was just so important. So
I want to make sure we get this done. There's no question that this is an integral part, and this will help Sparks Industrial tremendously.
Let me mention that we're also going to probably be adding another contract, another amendment to this contract that we were unable to complete in time for this board meeting. And I don't know when we're going to get it. Hopefully next board meeting. We do have to have a meeting in November. And so, again, you're going to be hearing this name again. But they're a very capable firm.
Mr. Walls.
Yeah, just to clarify, for the record, the original agreement for professional engineering services, that did go out to bid.
Yes.
This amendment did not.
Right.
For the reasons,
That's what
okay.
I was referring to, is this amendment. That's exactly what I was
All
referring
right,
to.
thank you.
If I may as well, one of the reasons we did push forward on this was the Corps had a very tight
The timeline, and I referenced that.
The Corps project manager is very happy with the time frame that we have met on this proposal, but also the Vista Narrows design, including the terracing associated with it, is the same exact terracing basically we're doing for, this amendment. So it was much more efficient to just basically take that plan set and copy it over. So it's a much more cost-effective way to do this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, looking for a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, passes unanimously. Thanks, sir. Okay, we'll move on to number 4B, discussion and possible action to approve an agreement with All Eagle LLC for asbestos abatement and cleanup at 1725 South McCarran, which is the Bristlecone property. Eric, you're doing this.
All right, thank you again, sir. Eric Sheets for the record, engineer for the FLIP project. This is an item that we've actually wanted to do for a long time now. In fact, we originally put out a bid or a bid package to be proposed on back in 2013. We held off on it due to the requirement with the Corps of Engineers to make sure that we meet all federal guidelines, including SHPO. Just recently, we received back a letter saying that SHPO has determined in agreement with the Corps consultants that that facility or that property cannot be listed on the National Historic Register.
We've been
So
waiting for that.
With that being said, one of the biggest liabilities I think we have right now is what occurred already back in January, where the gym was set on fire by some vagrants. And I obviously don't want to see anything safety-wise happen, but we need to manage those liabilities. And in doing so, one of the biggest cost increases that we had on the gym was the asbestos that was in that facility. When the building caught on fire, the fire department, doing the great job that they did, had to come put that out, but it basically broke apart a lot of that asbestos. And then now you're left with a pile of hazardous material, which increases the overall cost of the project. Now, it's still a manageable cost, but it's just much safer, much more economical, much smarter to take out that asbestos first. And so that's what I'm asking here. This does not go into further discussion on what we do with the building, anything like that. I don't want to see a fire happen this winter, believe me, because actually I really want to see some of that material saved and recycled, used somewhere else. But for managing our liability, I think this is the most prudent way to do this. And cost-wise, it's not a bad cost. We bid it out. We had multiple bidders. It's worth it.
So I'm hoping this is a prelude to demolition, and let me know if I'm wrong, getting off the agenda item here. But if we're going to remove the asbestos, why don't we just go ahead, because there's no historical value, so why don't we make plans for that?
We are making plans.
Okay.
It was, the timing of this is such, with winter coming on, we wanted to make sure we got this completed
Done.
first. We wouldn't necessarily be able to get to the
Somebody else
demolition.
demoed it for us.
Yeah. It may be cheaper to let somebody else do it, but.
Yeah, if we can get the asbestos out perhaps, but.
Okay, so maybe we can see that on the next agenda item.
Next fire's gonna burn
Next
out
meeting.
later.
Okay, anything else, Eric?
No, sir.
Okay, I think it's a wise decision, so I'm looking for a motion.
Move approved.
We got 18 motions and 3 motions, so pick, go ahead and pick.
Paul's was loudest.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Aye, opposed, passes unanimously. Thanks, Eric. Okay, 4C, presentation regarding a discussion of the auditor's financial and compliance reports. Lori, how are you?
Very good, thank you.
Good.
Good morning. Lori Williams, Senior Financial Analyst for Truckee River Flood Management Authority. And you have the audit report in your packet, and I passed out the management letter. You've got that. I'm sorry you didn't have the week to read it, but we'll cover that. The auditor's report offers an unmodified opinion of Truckee River Flood Management Authority's financial statement. This is the highest form of opinion that's available to us, and it indicates that our financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects. As far as the financial statements, they report that Truckee River Flood Management Authority's annual operations as of June 30th, 2018 had a net position where assets exceeded liabilities to the tune of $72,617,308. The largest portion of that, 72%, is tied up in our capital assets, and that is net of depreciation. The remaining is 28%, or $20,933,278, is unrestricted and may be used to meet ongoing obligations. This number is up 6.5% over last year, and that's primarily because all of the projects that we had budgeted for this year were started later in the year and did not get fully funded at this time. So it's money that will be carried over to the current year and is in our current budget. As far as the sales tax distribution, Truckee River Flood Management Authority's primary source of revenue is distributed to the authority by Washoe County. And on a gross basis, that is before the debt is withheld, the distribution was up 9.4% over fiscal year 17. However, that was reduced down to 4% because there was a sizable refund that needs to be paid to 2 companies that accidentally overpaid their sales taxes in prior years. So we have a refund of $429,841 that will be made over 18 months starting in September of 18. So we've made the first payment. And that, while we knew it in fiscal year 18, so it was reflected in fiscal year 18. TRFMA's combined general fund and capital projects fund balance was $21,494,858. This is an increase of just over $4 million. And of this combined fund balance, 32% is unassigned and available for spending at the board's discretion. The remaining 68% breaks down to 35% being assigned to particular purposes, as in board reserves, the money that's set aside for emergency or meeting insurance deductibles, those kinds of things. We also have 32% that's committed to board-approved contracts and agreements, and we have 1% that is represented by a combination of prepaid expenditures, deposits, and restricted money in the capital projects fund balance. As far as liquidity, the authority is very liquid. We have the ability to meet immediate and short-term obligations. We have two measures for this. First is comparing the unassigned fund balance to the general fund expenditures and transfers, or budgeted general fund expenditures and transfers. And when you do that, you come up with a ratio of 152%. So that means that while we have all of our current budgeted activities covered by our finances, we can again cover them by 1.5 times more. On another measure, it is using the total fund balance compared to the same expenditures and transfers, and that comes out to be 467%. So that covers the expenditures if you were to use all of our fund balance at a rate of over 4.5 times what we already cover it. So we're very liquid at this point. And of course, that is an intentional plan because the authority is trying to save money to begin construction should we have a positive vote in November. As far as the budget goes, we had no adjustments or augmentations. We did have a significant variation. We had quite a bit of money budgeted for transfers to capital projects, but again, because those projects did not begin until late, we did not need to transfer as much in the fiscal year, so that was the variance. In the letter that you've been distributed, the management letter, you will see that this being the third year that we do not have a Schedule 1 with Washoe County, the issue did finally come up in the audit, and it's mentioned there. And we will have David Schopper from Bernard Vogler come up and talk to us about the audit report, and he'll discuss that a little bit further. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them now, or we can do it after David comes.
Any questions for Lori right now? Come on up, David.
And his name is David. We have it Michael in the.
What's that?
His name is David, not Michael, so, as it is in the.
I think I said David, didn't I say David?
Yeah, you said it right.
Oh, okay,
But we have
gotcha.
it- We have it written wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but David Michael, or Michael David.
Well, my name's David Schopper. I'm a CPA with Bernard Vogler, and I was actually the engagement director. There's a misprint in the
Okay.
agenda. That's what she was referencing. So as Lori previously stated, we gave an unmodified opinion to the financial statements, which means that they are presented in all material respects with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States. And also in the audit report, there is on page 30, there is an independent auditor's report on internal control over financial reporting and compliance. And I'm pleased to say that there was no internal control deficiencies and no instances of material non-compliance or other matters that are required to be reported under government auditing standards. And so Lori went over most of the financial information, so I'll skip that. So also, which Lori distributed this morning, was a management letter. And this is a required portion of the audit where we state our responsibilities in the audits, if we had any disagreements with management, which we did not. There were no significant new accounting policies. Then on page 2, we state significant accounting estimates, since these are particularly sensitive because of the significance on the financial statements. One is depreciation expense, which is standard and is just based on the estimated useful lives of the assets. And the second one is Washoe County is charging on other post-employment benefits, which is retiree health insurance. And this charge for 2018 was $86,106, and this is based on 9 total employees, which I'll get into more on the second page. So there was no uncorrected misstatements. As I stated, no disagreement and no disagreements with management. So on the third page, under significant accounting, significant matters, findings, or issues, there is something that I wanted to bring to the board's attention. So the authority under the interlocal cooperative agreement that was originally signed with the 3 entities is to only use revenues for the flood management project, expenses of the authority as provided in the agreements and in accordance with laws and agreements governing such revenues. So currently, Washoe County is charging on overhead services and other post-employment benefit obligations, which is retiree health insurance when the employees retire, on 9 employees. And of course, there's only 7, at year end there was 7 positions of the authority and 2 vacant positions, which were eliminated in May 2016. However, the county still is charging for those 2 vacant positions on overhead services and on these other post-employment benefit obligations. And further, the authority is getting charged by Washoe County on units of service time spent while they were employees of Washoe County, and potentially for 3 employees who will not receive health insurance benefits upon retirement because they were hired after the pertinent dates. So there wasn't a signed agreement this year between the county and the authority, and the county is withholding or charging those monies monthly from the sales tax distributions that they ultimately remit to the authority. So as I state here, management disagrees with this computation and some charges for Schedule 1 services. And I do agree that there's a potential overcharging of these expenses.
And that's the point of our disagreement, right? The May 16th, when we don't even have these employees.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I kind of agree then
Is
with
it for
that.
past employees, though? Because it's post.
Well, so Washoe County, it's somewhat out of the scope of the audit to estimate the particular amounts, but Washoe County is charging, they have, X amount of budget, 20 million or whatever it is, and the nine positions of TRFMA, of the authority, are, an X amount. So they're having a proportion of those 9 employees' charges to the total Washoe County charges and charging those. So, and when they do that, so many of the employees of the authority were employees of Washoe County before the authority split off and became its own entity. So there's a big actuarial study that Washoe County had performed, and most of these units of service were from before the authority was made. And so Washoe County is charging for those prior units of service each year to the authority. Does that make sense?
So they're still charging for those employees?
Yes, they're still charging. In 2018, they charged,
Okay.
to the best that I could tell, on those 2 vacant positions.
Washoe County is the culprit.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I might add that at one time, we had 13 employees, so there's no rhyme or reason to the amount of employees that they're charging for, just because we had those at that one time, even though they were open positions.
Okay. All right, let's get back on the audit here.
So let me just, may I, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
So perhaps the best way to deal with these kinds of disagreements is through litigation.
In the short term, we're having our auditors look at this question more closely to give us an opinion.
Because I know
before we-
our auditors have disagreed,
Yeah.
and I hate being put in the middle of.
Absolutely. So we will likely be coming to the board seeking further advice once that audit is complete. As the board is aware, all of the funding that we deal with comes through NRS 377B, the 377B tax. And we may be seeking the opinion of the state of Nevada, likely through Legislative Council Bureau, on how that should be handled.
Is that binding?
Probably not.
Likely not. They may, I hate to speculate what action they may choose to take, and we'll wait and see what the opinions are. Under the interlocal cooperative agreement that controls all of this funding, there are two possible mechanisms for dispute resolution. One would be to go to binding arbitration. The other would be to present the issue to this board as a finder of fact, and you would make a decision on that. Obviously, that could be pretty complex as well. So there's not, the ICA does not anticipate immediate litigation, and I think that it would be very wise to avoid that. So
Sometimes you got to get their attention.
sometimes we're still, I would suppose, putting this into putting our factual case together, and we'll present those issues to the board in the future.
You know, I mean, the bottom line here is that some of my friends agree, some of them disagree, and I agree with my friends.
Well said. Okay, David.
Didn't know you had any friends.
Are you,
Yeah,
are you
that's,
done?
I'm done.
I have one.
Okay, any questions for David? Comments for David?
Well done.
Good job.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And another good audit. Congratulations. It's always good to hear those. And I don't understand why these auditor firms can't just say, hey, great, instead of the best that doesn't make any sense. Well, he did. Yes, he did. Yeah. Okay, so that is, we're on 4C, looking for a motion. Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, 4D, monthly report on the authority's financial status and related financial activities. Lori, again.
I have to explain that typically you would have July and August financial statements in your packet. For the last 5 years, we've been doing updates to the software with absolutely no hiccups or problems. And last week, we did an update, and luckily, I already had July out, but I didn't have August out yet, and they're still stuck in there. We're trying to get that all fixed up, so you'll have August at the next meeting, and I apologize. But these are the financial statements as of July 31st. There are no outstanding instances of anything to be particularly brought to your attention. Our sales tax revenues are right on target. Salaries and wages and benefits are also. And if you have any questions as far as anything in the financial statements or the encumbrance report, I guess that's next. As far as the financial statements, I'd be happy to address them.
Any questions or comments? Okay, looking for a motion to accept the report.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. We'll move on to 4E, review of monthly encumbrance report.
And these are the encumbrances, as all of our POs are listed here, as well as other agreements that we have as we've discussed previously with the Army Corps of Engineers. And outstanding obligations as of July 31st were $7,116,345.58. If you have any questions about these obligations, I would be happy to discuss them.
Questions or comments? Looking for a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thanks,
Thank
Lori.
you.
Okay, so we're moving on to 5, working group monthly report and possible action. Danielle?
Yes, you have the report in your packet, and if you have any questions, as always, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions? Comments? Okay, looking for motion to accept the report.
Motion to accept. Second?
We have motion and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Number 6, board member comments, request future agenda items. Any Jay, we haven't had a meeting in a while, and I can't remember, did we get the extension past 2021 that they were talking about?
Yes, Mr. Chair, that was that was what the senators were touting.
Okay.
The fact that we got 10 years in lieu of
Okay.
the 7 that we had before. So
10 additional years, or?
we got 10 years from the date that the Corps returns the reviewed
Okay,
plan that we gave them last year.
okay.
So, but when they give that to us, then the clock will start 10 more years from that date.
Perfect.
So it's conceivable that it'll be 2030 something sometime before we have to actually worry again.
Yeah, that's good news. Okay, any other board member comments or questions?
I would like to tout, Marcus did that.
Yeah, I know he did. He was working on it.
Marcus suggested it to me, and I said, oh, yes. But it was Marcus' idea, and just for the board's knowledge.
Okay, and then as far as future agenda items, would you bring back the Brisacone demolition?
Absolutely.
So we can be done with that. Any other comments? Okay, I'll open up the public comment. Anybody in the audience wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission. And without objection, we are adjourned. Thank you.